saw today's inflation data. 70% of the increase in prices in March came from Putin's price hike in gasoline.
Well, not all Democrats believe that. As we get the inflation numbers, the CPI numbers, very high, back to 1981. Democratic senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, who's been talking about inflation for a long, long time, says it's a disservice to the American people to act as if inflation is a new phenomenon. The Federal Reserve and the administration failed to act fast enough, and today's data is a snapshot in time of the consequences being felt across the country. Let's bring in our panel, former White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer, Leslie Marshall, Democratic strategist, and former Education Secretary Bill Bennett. Bill, what do you think about what the president said today and what you heard from that statement from Senator Manchin?
Well, Manchin is right on, and for God's sakes, Joe, give it up. Nobody believes you. I mean, the American people don't believe you. Even the Democrats are abandoning you on this issue. You might say something about Putin, yeah, bearing some responsibility for inflation late in the game here, but day one, what is the first thing you did? Got rid of the XL pipeline. For Pete's sakes, take responsibility. And while I'm talking about the XL pipeline, he's in Iowa today, Brett, and he's talking about ethanol, and he's asking the EPA to look the other way, as you reported. Ethanol creates smog, for God's sake, so we're going to have more ethanol and more smog this summer. Joe Biden is creating smog. The EPA and the police should lock him up. You can't do that. I mean, why is ethanol smog better than what fossil fuel does?
You know, Larry Summers, Leslie, has been talking about this for a long time. Obviously, a Democrat, worked in Democratic administrations, but talking over the weekend about what this potentially means, seeing the writing on the wall. Take a listen. So, Leslie, politically, this seems like it's really hitting a lot of folks, no matter your party ideology.
Absolutely. I mean, James Carville said it, back in the Clinton days, it's the economy, stupid, and it actually is. It doesn't matter if a voter is a Democrat, a Republican, independent, undecided, doesn't even know what party exists out there. It happens to not only be about the economy, about what numbers say on Wall Street, because if you look at Wall Street, it was a very strong start to the market today. You had up to 8% increase in retail, and we've seen a 6% drop in gas, but it's not what the numbers actually are, it's what the voters actually feel. And when the voters see and feel, especially mostly at the gas pump, numbers that are very high and that are affecting their livelihood, their ability to get to work, their ability to take their car to work or maybe able to purchase a car, that's definitely a concern for any politician, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. But I would say, when we point out Joe Manchin as a Democrat, I'm wearing my blue today, as you can see, I do question sometimes whether the senator is a Democrat, first, and second, we do have to look at his own interest, and I'm not just talking coal in his home state, but also he and his family's interest in coal and how that affects them financially. So I don't take Joe Manchin, I love you, Bill, but I don't take what Joe Manchin says as a signaling of all Democrats. Although, to your point, Brett, absolutely right, there are many Democrats who are trying to hold on to their jobs in midterm elections coming up that are trying to distance themselves because high inflation is not anyone's friend. It doesn't matter what your political party.
Yeah, I think the list may be growing. Leslie, I mean, you've got Kirsten Sinema, you've got others who have been outspoken about their concerns. Ari, on this, I want to turn to Russia.
Yes, I called it genocide because it's become clearer and clearer that Putin is just trying to wipe out the idea of being able to be Ukraine. And the evidence is mounting. It's different than it was last week. The more evidence is coming out of literally the horrible things that the Russians have done in Ukraine. And we're going to only learn more and more about the devastation. And we'll let the lawyers decide internationally whether or not it qualifies. But it sure seems that way to me.
President Biden already talking in a speech called it genocide, what he's seeing on the ground, and then explaining that there to the press pool moments ago.
You know, Brett, when I look at the world this week and in recent months, I come to one simple conclusion, and it's really about freedom. Look what Putin and Russia are doing, the brutality, the savagery, things that we really never thought we would see again in the 21st century, but we are. I mean, this is medieval stuff being practiced by a superpower, Russia. Look at what's happening in Shanghai, in China, where the government of China is making people starve to death, locking them in their own apartments, denying them food, denying medicine, separating children from parents. This is what totalitarian governments do. And we should be forever grateful that we have freedom, and we should know how to fight for freedom and keep freedom. It's our American hallmark. And times like this is when you say, how do they do it in China and Russia and we don't do it here? We don't do it here because of freedom, because of our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, and all we stand for. And it's really as simple as that. And this is one of those moments we should look around the world and be grateful we're Americans.
And we saw the images of the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson walking alongside the president of Ukraine, Bill. And the question comes, is the U.S. doing enough? Are we balancing it well enough? I only have 30 seconds here, though.
I don't think we are doing enough. Joe Biden wants to put full responsibility on Putin for inflation, but something less than full responsibility is what Joe Biden is doing in regard to anteing up for Ukraine. Why? God only knows.
All right, panel. Thanks so much. We were hoping to bring you that news conference from Brooklyn, but from New York City, but it's delayed a little bit. But thanks for the time.